Hello, and welcome back to the Be More Connected Summit. And today, our lovely guest is Charlotte Nguyen. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi, everybody.
And I'd love to open up by starting with an opportunity for you to share with us about Get Free. Who are you, and what is the work that you're doing in the world?
Who am I? Oh, that's a question that, I'll be asking for some time. But I'm really just someone who I think has insatiable curiosity and questions and like theory about the status quo, and I think like have some intergenerational connection with that. My family came to the US via the Vietnam War, and so in some ways with the legacy of trauma and oppression, it for me was really no surprise that it's always given me a lot of commitment, I think, and urgency around suffering and how to heal suffering in the world. Absolutely. And I think just continuously asking how to lead a life of service that can overturn the status quo, lovingly overturn the status quo. So yeah, that's the kind of world I was born into, the social justice, humanitarian world. I was working with the United Nations and Amnesty International, living in DC, being in the nonprofit space, serving vulnerable communities, and feeling that there was some moral questions that was arising through the activist work and some, I would call it ungrounding and burnout that came from carrying out this wounded healer archetype, in which I was helping people with trauma, but also having directly experienced trauma myself, neglecting the inner work that I needed to heal. And maybe if you're listening to this, you can relate to this in some way. But as an example, I would have these anxiety attacks and panic attacks, and these sort of like emotional catharsis experiences would come up because in the activist work, because my capacity to hold them just wasn't there. And my capacity to hold it all within me just like exceeded its energy. And I had nothing else to do. Yeah, right. I had nothing else that I could use to hold that down. And it would just come out, like my inability and lack of tools to deal with it just came out. And I like lived in the world in this way. Like I was serving from that place. It was a very different embodiment for me. And it just didn't feel good. Like when I say the word embodiment and I think about that time in my life and how I felt in my body, like it sucked. It just wasn't how I wanted to live. And it was something that I kept choosing over and over again because I just didn't know any other way out. And so went through this journey of, leaving that space, leaving my job, going back to therapy, reconnecting with nature, and through that, reconnecting with my ancestors, and through my ancestors, connected to my ancestral healing practices. And fast forward a little bit, and it was really meditation and mindfulness and these practices that come from Asian healing traditions and spiritual traditions that provided me with these tools to like not get out of it, but get through it, like move through the eye of the storm rather than like try to go around it or pretend like it's not there and like run the opposite direction, right? Like
Bypassing.
Yeah, exactly. The bypassing, right? It's not that the suffering has decreased. I still feel pain. I still feel sadness. I still feel the legacy of war and destruction and trauma, but my capacity to hold it is different. And I think learning that and cultivating practices around that is really what saved my life. Let's see. And so fast forward a little while, and in 2017, I created Get Free, which is my coaching practice that is dedicated to the healing and liberation of people of color. And so my job, my craft, my joy, my purpose, my heart is really to traverse the places of life spectrum with people that people don't want to go into, like that are challenging to go through, and walk with them hand in hand and help them move through it to the other side. Like that's my jam, and then supporting them in doing that inner work that's needed to get free so they can be the divine contribution that they came here to be, and create that more beautiful, that more just world that they know is possible, that their hearts knows is possible. And so I do group programs and private mentorship and retreats and workshops around the world where I support individuals and looking at the places where like we all want to have more abundance and excitement and radiance, and maybe this has been talked about in other interviews, but like these are all things that in some way have been taken away from us from the dominant paradigm, spirituality, healing, self-expression, pleasure. It's just like put money into like this capitalist structure, and femininity and sexuality as part of this religious thing we have to control, and spirituality and healing that's associated with like witches and like blonde women doing yoga on the beach in Venice. It's just like like, no, let's get to what this is really about, that all spiritual traditions of the world have always pointed to, which has always been to the central aim of spiritual practice has always been to the safety and the protection and the liberation of all beings and the alleviation of suffering in the world. And I've been in the practice of redefining my relationship to those things for years and years and years. So I don't have to feel guilt and shame around things like joy and pleasure and rest and ease anymore, and so the inspiration for my work is how can I share that with you all? How can I share that so that you don't have to feel guilt and shame around self-care anymore, so that you don't have to feel like you have to stay in the spiritual closet in order to be an activist or a leader or a change maker, so that you aren't scared of money or afraid of money. So when you asked me to do this interview, I was like, yes, I have a lot to say on this, because I've healed through some of this and have been able to turn pain and trauma and discomfort and confusion into like an amazing, beautiful, abundant business and life that I really love, and that I get to use that to serve humanity. So yeah, that's a little bit about my journey to here.
Yes. What a powerful introduction. And I so appreciate you sharing your path and your journey to reclaiming your power. And as you said, redefining your relationship with joy and pleasure and rest. And as someone who so admires you and has followed your journey for a couple of years, you seem to really show up with a level of authenticity about who you are and what you believe in. And do you have advice for our listeners about how to reclaim and redefine the relationship that you have with yourself and with others, and no longer feel as though you have to hold back about who you are and what you deeply believe in for fear of being criticized or judged? I think that's something that can come up often. And do you have advice that you could share with our audience around letting go of some of those fears and limiting beliefs and how to shift into another way of being?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I always joke that I was kind of born without that thing. I mean, I was born with a lot of other things that are annoying. Are really annoying. But it was like I was kind of born without that.
Wow.
Yeah. Now the thing that I do have is I do love to be loved. So if something I'm doing threatens people loving me, then yes, it will be difficult for me. But it's rare that I hope it's rare that anything I do like threatens me being loved, because you know why? Because
we all know why.
went through those stages, where I cut out the people who don't love me as me by being me, and that was tough, but I already went through that a few times this life, and now the people who love me as is, they love me if I'm messy, they love me if I'm tired, they love me if I'm weird, they love me being grumpy, they love if I'm being triggered, if I'm in my wound, and my shadow, they still love me.
And that unconditional love is like the most empowering force.
Oh, it's super epic, right? It's super epic. So I've had to I'm not afraid of what people think. I I I don't want to lose the love of the people around me.
Sure.
And I also have in my astrology chart, I I think my sun is in the 10th house. And that means that my life is about being seen. I've always wanted to be a dancer. I trained for years in the performing arts. So I actually, and I have a lot of Aries energy. So I actually like love
fire.
offering myself. Yeah. Like
Yes.
offering myself as an avatar for others. What's helped me so much is just like not identifying so much with this self. Like I do and I don't, it's like in some ways it's like I love making this in a sense like the sacrificial lamb or like the devotional offering to others. Like I get off on that. It's like that makes me happy because I feel like if I can offer my experience to others and if they help, I don't give a fuck what people think. And yeah, I do think when I was younger, I did go through those phases when I was younger. I had this like this like choreography competition. This story just came up for me. I was probably like 15 or 16 and I just remember this song. Maybe it's called Not So Soft by Ani DeFranco, and it just has these drums in the beginning.
Oh, and yes, I can think of that song.
Right, yeah, and she like does this wailing, and I thought it was like really emotive. Even as a young girl, I was just like fascinated by it. And I just remember my dance teacher would help me make my costumes, and I told her I want to wear this like gray fabric and I want it to be torn up and I want to wrap my head up and I want like the whole dance shackles and how heavy the shackles are, and I've got to like sort of rub my wrists along the floor and everything's got to be like low, and if I lift my arms it's because like it's so heavy, and the whole dance basically has just got to be about like being tired. And like then I performed it, and like I grew up around this like really white middle class sort of, it was like this white middle class dance festival, and everyone was just like, whoa. It's really intense. So it's like it's definitely a moment, I think, one of the many moments in this life where it's like I had to burst through the ceiling. Like that's what I knew I needed to do,
Right, you felt it in your bones.
Yeah, right. And it wasn't even like I wasn't trying to make these women upset. I wasn't trying to scare my competitors. It's just like you're asking me to share like a performance, like a message essentially, and like this is my message, and then
this is what's coming through me.
This is what's coming through me. And it wasn't until I let myself be seen that I realized, oh, like I'm triggering, like like I'm just really upsetting people, like I'm just being me, so I think that's a hard one. It's like I know how to lead other people through this because it's what I do with so many of my clients, like help them feel comfortable being seen and sharing their voices, sharing their body, sharing their talents, sharing their anger, their rage, right? Their love, whatever it is. For me, it's part of my makeup, that I love that. It feels really good for me to share. But what I will say, one of the things that's really tough for me is, and I'm going to share a little vulnerably here, is something that's really tough for me is like coming out to my parents as queer. Like, that's really hard. Yeah. Like I feel like I'm going to lose their love, so that's hard for me. That's like me being me, It's like I'm fine coming out of the smoking marijuana closet, like the spiritual closet, like the closet as an artist, the closet as a healer, like all these things. That's something in my life where, I'm fine with that. Like I'm fine making myself that sacrificial lamb for that because I know it's serving other people. But the coming out is like something in this life where I have to take that leap and where I just have to burst through, that's what I know I need to do and have yet to do. But with everything else, I just knew that people that love me would stick around and they'd be the good ones. And yeah, this weekend I was like laughing with my friends. I was having dinner with two of my friends here in LA, and I was just like, oh my fucking God, I'm so happy I have you guys. Like, you're both Aquariuses, you're both eccentric weirdos. We have like the most deep mystical conversations. I could say anything to them.
Incredible.
Right? And they would not bat an eye, you know.
Yeah.
It's just like, you know, the same thing with another friend. She's like,
Mm.
my moon is in Pisces, so we both have a lot of that energy. And I was just like, oh, I just love soft, squishy
Watery,
people.
emotional
Yeah,
energy.
exactly. Yeah, who just live with big hearts and are just so themselves and so
Mm.
so unique and expressed. So I think I just know that if I keep being me, I'll attract the right people around. And it might not be in the timeline that I wish, but they will come. And it's not just friends or like lovers, it's also like jobs and opportunities and clients and you know, all the things that I'm in relationship with. And I might trigger some people being me, but that's not my problem unless I'm attacking them or hurting them directly, you know.
Yeah. If you're not causing harm, then
Right.
there's an expression of self that should take priority above the reactions or
Yeah,
the experiences that others may have in response to you. And I
definitely.
think it is a lifelong journey, and it's an evolution in terms of first discovering the core essence of who we are, and then stepping into a space where we feel comfortable and safe to be able to share our fullness and our wholeness with others.
Yeah.
I love how beautifully you shared your process in terms of sharing with the people in your immediate world. But now then you said embodying, being someone who's able to step out into a more public space and give and share of your energy in a way that feels super nourishing for others.
Thank you. And I love that you said embodied because you're right. You know, if they're triggered by me and I'm not like, it's not directed at them, I'm not causing harm, then that's their stuff, you know, and all I can do is keep being myself. And if it feels good to be myself, just keep being myself, you know.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
And I'd love for you to share even more about, yeah, what your daily practice looks like and how you're able to, on a consistent basis, invest in yourself in a way that provides you with the energy and the headspace and the heart space to do the work that you do in the world.
Yeah. That's such a good question. Daily practice. So I've had a daily meditation practice for a while now, rooted in Buddhist practices. And I'm not a Buddhist kind of like publicly. For me and in my life, it's a philosophy, not necessarily a religion,
Mm.
that I do really resonate with and I practice with, that I take refuge in daily. And when my eyes open in the morning, as I'm still sort of lying in bed, I'll say thank you and give gratitude for the gift of waking up this morning. And then I do my own version of the Bodhisattva vow, which is a vow that I will use my life today to be in service to the liberation of all beings, and the alleviation of suffering for all beings. And then I practice mindfulness meditation, single focused awareness meditation for about an hour. And it took me a while to get there. Like it
That's
started
a
off with
lengthy
like,
practice.
yeah, I don't want anyone listening to this and be like, that's what I need to do. It's like, you know, if you can start with 5 minutes, start with 5 minutes, you know, and then you sort of build from there. But some of the things that I've been doing for like 10 years that I still do, I do morning pages, which I got from the Artist's Way, if you're familiar.
Yeah.
Yeah, by Julia Cameron. So every day I write in my journal, and sometimes it's not a lot, sometimes it is a lot. But every morning I also doing, well, not in the morning, sometimes in the evening, but every day I do some sort of dance or embodiment work.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and that's just to soften the layers of hardness on my heart, you know, and just really gets me into my body. It frees space, it gets me out of my head. So especially if I've had a busy work week and I feel like, you know, high octane, I've been thinking at the computer, and it just drops me right into my body and my womb and my heart, like all the way in there. So I do practice that quite a bit, depending on where I'm going through in my life, I think it just really drops me into my feminine side, where I've been like badass boss bitch and I'm doing great, but I want to feel my heart again, you know?
So important.
Yeah, so those practices: daily meditation, daily journaling, and embodiment practice. And you know, because I've been on this journey for some time, I do have like an extended toolkit that that I use, and you know, I do like tapping when I'm working through certain emotional blockages. That helps
Sure.
quite a bit. I do different things. I've studied in Asian spiritual arts as a tea ceremonialist. I practice a tradition of tea ceremony called Chadao, which comes from ancient Taoist lineage. So I'll substitute sitting meditation for tea meditation when I want to connect to my senses, or to like the earth, the energy of plants in a deeper or a more subtle way. So
Beautiful.
yeah, but the base practices daily that I can recommend to everyone: just journaling, 20-minute solid meditation. You can use Insight Timer. It's a great app. And then doing a movement and embodiment practice to get into the heart. Even if you do that for 10 or 15 minutes, you know, yeah.
Can make a world of difference. I think one of the kind of elements of mindfulness and yoga that I appreciate so much is just pairing movement with the breath.
Yes.
Something so simple can have such a transformative impact on your whole energetic experience.
Yeah, right. And like, that's life, like pairing movement
With
with
breath.
breath, right? It's like, you know, it's like life is dance. Like life becomes yoga. It's not something you simply have, you know, for 30 minutes of practice, right? And to have that experience of mindfulness, not just when you're journaling, right? Not just when you're on your mat, not just when you're on your meditation cushion, but to have that just be innate and like
As part of how you move through the world.
exactly, right? Like when I'm walking from my door to the car, right? When I'm walking, as I'm like turning the knob to the door of my next meeting, right? Like, can that not also be a dance, you know?
So true.
Yeah. And something else I will say about daily practice is like, depending on where you are and, you know, your menstruation cycle or like what's going on in your personal life, like if you're dealing with a lot of rage, you know, I do a lot, right? Like you might need
That's
that.
real.
Yeah,
We all
it's
do.
real. Yeah. You know, if that's the case, you might need that embodiment practice to just like rage it out and like scream into a pillow for 30 minutes and then sit in meditation. You know, like I believe that we have to claim our emotions and learn to feel our emotions and
honor
let
them.
our hearts break for like the fact that children are being detained at the border, and like have a good handle on them before we can sit and kind of transcend them or like turn them into love, turn them into action, right? Because if we've grown up in a culture that doesn't allow us to feel our anger, then you have a repressed part of you. And so if you sit in a meditation and you're like, oh no, it's not spiritual to have anger, I have no anger, it's likely that that's actually turning into a shadow, and it's unexpressed, and it's going to find a way to come out in unconscious ways. So I think for a lot of people, it's important to name that, right? Like it's important 100%. To have a healthy space to feel your anger, to have a practice around it, and then you can sit in Omi Paneo, you know, like and kind of laugh at it. Ha ha ha, anger, you know, I don't identify with you. I'm not you, but I'm not afraid to feel you.
And repressed emotions have such a powerful impact on our central nervous system and our whole body as well. Is if emotions aren't felt and experienced and released and are solely suppressed, that creates so much stuck energy and negativity within our being that can lead to illness and other challenges. So I think it's so important to acknowledge and to create space for our emotions in our lives.
Yeah, right. And it's also like, you know, sometimes we can do it like Italian opera style, right? Like, oh, woe is me. And sometimes it just needs a moment. Like, it
Sure.
just needs 90 seconds of like, I'm going to feel this at 100%.
Just feel it.
It's not going to be forever, but I'm
Right.
just going to like feel it at 100% for like this temporary moment in time. Right. And sometimes that's all it needs,
That's
because
all it takes.
it's all right. And like sometimes it doesn't, right? Sometimes it needs,
True.
use your community, right? Like that's where hiring a coach or hiring, having a healer or a therapist or something is really, really important. But when we feel things fully, we're sending a message to our nervous system that we're no longer afraid of it.
Right.
And when our nervous system receives the message that we're no longer afraid of it, it doesn't need to hold on to it anymore. It lets it go. Right? I don't need this anymore. I let it go. And then there's space to replace it with something new. Like something else can be rewritten with it,
Super powerful.
Yeah. But just, something to try. Like my teacher always says, try it on like a hat. See what it would feel like, to feel something fully at 100% in like 60 seconds or 90 seconds, right? Rather than avoiding it, pretending it's not there, and then it bottles up and it becomes this really like cathartic experience. And it doesn't always need to be that way.
Sure.
Mm. Mm.
And I was wondering if you could share an experience with us about a time when you have overcome or released a fear and how that has allowed you to shift into another layer or depth of connection with yourself.
Yeah, something that's really present for me is, when I think about where most of the suffering in my life has come from, it's really come from like my relationships with men and like the impact of patriarchy, and so
it's so oppressive.
Yeah, right. And how that seeps into how that seeps in on a interpersonal level, right?
Sure.
And so many, like my fears in the past year, I've had like a few really gorgeous friendships and love connections that have been incredibly magical and incredibly healing, and that have not been like life partners, or people that I've been involved in like a longer partnership with.
Sure.
So I experience a lot of fear and discomfort in those situations, right? Like trusting men. And yeah, when I look at my life, what has caused me a lot of suffering are those relationships, and my relationship with my father has been something that has been a huge place of work for me in this life, like spiritual work and growth. And, I used to hate him, and he's done some things that have been really difficult. And like, I love him now. I've literally spent 10 years working on it consciously, like,
Wow.
like forgiving him, like puking it up in like, plant medicine ceremonies, like crying it out, all of it, like all of it. It's been a real journey. So that, of course, just like the magic of the universe and how things are, of course, that has been mimicked in my relationships with other men. I didn't get. Yeah, like, right, like I didn't get a free pass that like only he's the hard man. Like, of course, those patterns are going to play out with other men, friendships, coworkers, like, lovers, whatever. So that has caused me a lot of suffering at times, because I've had these things show up that were from dad in relationships that have been frustrating. For example, like my father, and there's like, immigrant dad, Asian stuff in there, but was not really emotionally expressive and really emotionally unavailable, and like didn't say I love you. And I don't really remember being hugged by my father, up until recently, right? Yeah, so there's been that fear there, and it's been the area that I've had to work on the hardest. And like, maybe there are people here listening to this where it's just like, yeah, everything else is, I've got this, but when it comes to love, like SOS, you know, it's taken the most courage. It's taken the most, you know, tenacity and strength to keep going. And it's been the times in my life where I've been the most sad.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't really feel those much around my work. I just feel like I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, right? Like,
And it feels aligned.
yes, it's totally aligned, right? Like I'm just an instrument of like the universe and of justice, and like you know, just tell me what to do, you know. But with
Beautiful.
love, yeah, it's a space where I definitely like a lot of things come up. And in the past year, I've had karmic people come in that like were like, I want to open up and like I want to receive and I want to like have that enter into that portal, you know, where like of love and intimacy. And you know, there's a part of me that's like, but the patriarchy, right? Like you're gonna get hurt, like he's gonna betray you and like he's gonna hurt you, right? And like to really trust my intuition. Yeah, so that's been really very healing and epic. And you know, what I've been able to experience through these relationships is like kind of beyond the scope of what I knew was possible to have.
Wow.
A partnership and friendship with men and love, right? But yeah, I think really when there's that big opening and expansion with love or a lover, there's often just the same on the other side of contraction, right? There's resistance. And so yeah, diving into the deep end with love with people basically is your question, right? Like really open-hearted and vulnerable and real. Yeah, that any pain or any old stuff that's hiding in the heart comes right to the surface.
100%.
Yeah, but I'm glad I wasn't too afraid to face those fears, because at the end of the day, like I can't escape it. You know, my heart wants to open. You know, it's just like, fuck it, I'm not gonna hold back, even though this is terrifying, you know, to stand in front of this man, you know, who's asking me to like open, or like who wants to hug me. And it's like, oh, I'm gonna open, like I'm gonna practice that. I trust others because I trust myself. Trust myself to leave a situation immediately if it feels like it's harmful, if it feels like it's not in service, right? And like letting go of the lead, like letting go of control and really opening. And now it's just, I did that, and now I'm in like kind of this discernment process. And I feel like I'm graduating from that. Like I'm not doing that anymore. I'm not contracting and closing my heart to love. But I don't regret doing that with those people, because there was incredible healing that happened, even if, you know, it didn't work out the way I wanted it to. Yeah, it's like, okay, like what if we can heal our relationship with men, and then through that, like, you know, unlearn patriarchy, right? And like shift and heal that. Healing the wounded masculine, right, through love has been such a thing that I didn't even think I wanted. And maybe if like 14-year-old me, who was like radical feminist and like, you know, no bras, would like totally cringe if she heard me saying this, you know. But I feel like healing and guidance is so often not what we think or want it to be, you know. Yeah, this was my work in the last year or so.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I so appreciate you sharing so vulnerably and talking about that process that's been evolving within your own heart, because I know how intense and how precious it is as we work through our own connection with love and vulnerability and intimacy, all of these deep, deep things that we're craving as souls that have incarnated on the planet. And I think that this work that you're talking about is reflected in all of our experiences, like being able to balance and actually create a space for the masculine and the feminine to live together and to honor each other.
Yeah.
Like that is all of our work. And it is so incredibly painful to think about the centuries and centuries and centuries in which patriarchy has played such a powerful and oppressive role in our lives, and continues to this
Yeah,
day. But
totally.
creating the space within our own hearts to open and receive is where the work really begins.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that was so beautifully said. And I think like just ties it around to like why it was so important for me to, for the longest time, I thought that what it would take to dismantle patriarchy was like working through systems, right?
Right.
Like, you know, electing more women in Congress and like more women CEOs, and like that change needed to happen from the top down. And like it does, but it also needs to happen from the bottom up, right? Like the systems impact the personal, right? And then like the personal impacting like the collective, like the systems itself.
It's all connected.
Yeah, right. And like my journey might be different from yours. Like people who are listening to this who are just like, that doesn't really resonate. Like that's totally fine. We all have our own stuff and karma in this life. I just know for me, like there was a time and place where like anger at men and patriarchy like needed to have its time and place. And I would say that was like a phase of like 7 years, of just like anger and resistance and like, oh, like it's hopeless for men, basically, that there's too much damage that's been done and harm that's been done, especially as a survivor, like just holding so much suffering from that. And then I sort of had to look within and really listen to myself, and that's not the embodiment that I wanted anymore. Like I want to be in a loving relationship with my father. Like I want to have male friends in my life.
Right.
Like that's just my work, and so we all get to tune into what that looks like for us. How can we create a world beyond patriarchy? And for me, that looks like creating space for like men to feel, and for for us to like heal our own wounded masculine inside of us.
100%.
Yeah. So thank you for allowing me to share on that.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I love how you said that we all get to tune in and discern for ourselves what our work looks like, and as we move forward and process and do our own healing. And I'd love to know if there's anything that's kind of bubbling up for you right now as you're looking forward to 2020. What is your vision for what you're tuning into for this year, and maybe things that are coming next for you with Get Free?
Yeah, awesome. So 2020. Well, I'm really excited about I'm really excited by my mentorship, because we have so many individuals coming together and just fucking being ready to up level and to face their shit so that they can grow and become leaders. And so many of the people in my mentorship have become leaders and have started businesses that are thriving, and that to me makes me the happiest. Literally more happy than all the fucking likes in the world, all the followers, all the whatever. Like it makes me so happy when my clients
so incredible.
are thriving. Yeah, I know you know that feeling, and when they're killing it.
Yes.
They're busting through their limiting beliefs. Like I had a client with like massive anxiety, and I worked with her one-on-one, and then she started like her own anxiety support group, and she started talking publicly about what it's like to be a person with anxiety. And the last time I saw her, she just like showed up at a workshop last summer, and like I had to do a double take. I was like, because she was just a radiant goddess, like walking into this room, like super sexy and like,
yes.
Yeah. And I looked at her, I was like, holy shit. Like, it makes me so happy. You are shining.
Yes.
So yeah, that makes me the happiest. And I love my work. So we have different options for people who are curious about this kind of work. I have a group program that I run once a year, as well as one-on-one mentorships for those who want to go even deeper. So that stuff's really exciting to me. I'm planning some retreats this year. I'm going to be doing hopefully a lot more traveling, and really basically bringing all of this offline to the community. I'm gonna keep studying more, Buddhist practices, meditation practices with my teacher, continuing to study tea and just following that path. So just bringing all of that to my community and all of that background and being able to be a leader in my community and bringing that into my activism and framing all of that in the context of advancing justice and strengthening our movements. So yeah, it's a really exciting year in that way.
Incredible.
Aw.
And I'm so, so grateful that I had the opportunity to connect with you today and share this conversation with our beautiful community. And I know that you have a free gift for us. So could you share a little bit about your free gift and anything else that you'd like to share before we wrap?
Yeah, of course. So I have a guided meditation that I channeled for those who would like to gift themselves with healing past trauma using mindfulness, using affirmation, using metta, which is a Buddhist practice of loving kindness. I think when we're doing deep transformational work, not just in ourselves, but also in the world, for the world, and like building businesses and like taking risks and huge leaps of faith, painful memories and painful emotions will come up. They bring them to the surface so that we can deal with them. But without the proper support, it can be really destabilizing. And that's where working with, a coach or a guide like Elise, or, a therapist or some sort of guide can be really supportive. And practices like breathwork meditation, I find is a really powerful yet gentle way to assist you in just coming home to yourself. Finding your true north and just affirming your inherent value, even if you're not working, even if you're not making money, even if you're not producing, right? So yes, please give this meditation to yourself, and may it just bless you with all the rest and the repair and the restoration that you desire and that you deserve.
Thank you so much, Charlotte. And I can attest to the magic of Charlotte's meditations. I've enjoyed them greatly.
Thank you so much, love.
And thank you so, so much again for joining us. And we will see you in the next interview of the Be More Connected Summit.
Thank you so much, everybody. Have a beautiful day. And thank you, Elise, for using your platform to uplift other people. It's so magical, and I'm so excited to see, your own journey as a guide, as a teacher, as a healer, as a wisdom keeper. Just really excited for all the places you're going to go. So bless you, bless you.
Thank you, Charlotte. I received that, and I appreciate the love and support.
Yay. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.